She already had the gold medal around her neck. The 100 meters was done. Most athletes would have gone back to the hotel, called their family, cried a little, and let the moment breathe. She did not do any of that. She walked back out onto that track, looked down at lane 6, and decided the night was not over yet. What happened next rewrote history in a way that nobody, not her coaches, not the commentators, not the thousands of people packed into Tokyo's National Stadium, had seen coming. Her name is Melissa Jefferson Wooden. And before we get to Tokyo, you need to understand exactly how unlikely this whole story was supposed to be. At the start of 2025, Melissa sat down with her coaching staff and told them something that made at least one of them nearly laugh out loud. She said she wanted to take the 200 meters seriously, not just run it as a second event, win it. At the World Championships, her coaches exchanged a look, the kind of look that adults give each other when they're trying to be polite about something they do not believe. Because Melissa had always been a 100 meters athlete. She was explosive, she was ferocious off the blocks, she was the kind of sprinter who could make a race look over before the crowd even settled. But the 200 meters is a completely different conversation. It requires something the 100 does not. Patience, curve control, the ability to stay smooth and powerful when your legs are on fire with 30 meters still left to run. And standing at the very top of that world, owning it, defining it, was Shericka Jackson, a woman who had run more top 10 200-meter times than any sprinter in the entire history of the event. Not in recent history, all of history. So when Melissa said she was going to win the 200 meters world championship, the world heard it and moved on. Nobody booked the headline. That disbelief became the most powerful thing she had. The signs started appearing early in the season, quiet at first, then impossible to ignore. At Grand Slam track in Philadelphia in May, Melissa ran 21.99 seconds. For the first time in her career, she had broken the 22-second barrier. More importantly, she had beaten Gabby Thomas. If you do not know what that means, here is what you need to know. Gabby Thomas is the reigning Olympic 200 meters champion. She is one of the greatest closers in the history of the sprint. Her entire identity on the track is built around what she does in the final 40 meters, when other runners are fading and she is accelerating. That is supposed to be the moment Thomas takes over and ends the race. Melissa built a lead on the curve so large that by the time Thomas started her charge, the finish line was already too close. Thomas ran out of track. Melissa ran out of competition. Then came the U.S. National Championships, where she ran 21.84 seconds and punched her ticket to Tokyo in both sprint events. The media still wrote the 200 meters as Jackson's title to defend. Thomas was the challenger. Melissa was barely mentioned. She had heard that story enough times by now. She had already decided how it ended. Shericka Jackson arrived in Tokyo carrying something heavier than a championship belt. She carried a record that bends the mind when you actually look at it. More top 10 200-meter performances than any woman who has ever lived. Not any woman currently competing. Any woman in the entire recorded history of the sport. She had won the World Championship in Budapest. She was back to defend it. She pulled up in lane 7 for the final, right next to Melissa in lane 6, and every number in the history book said this was her race to lose. Here is one more number that sets the stage. The last American woman to win the 200 meters at a World Championship was Allison Felix. That was in 2009. 16 years had passed. 16 years of American sprinters getting close, running fast, and coming home without that specific gold medal. 16 years. Think about that. That was not a streak. That was a wait. When the gun fired, Melissa did not wait. Most 200 meters sprinters ease through the first half of the race, preserving energy for the home straight, where the real racing begins. Melissa did not ease into anything. She pushed from the first stride, driving hard through the bend, building speed that most runners are still hunting by the time she had already found it. By the time she hit the straight, she was in front. Not barely in front. In front. The commentator said it live and with a tone that told you he knew he was watching something rare. Once she got to the lead, she was almost impossible to catch. Dina Asher-Smith, the 2019 world champion, was running well on the outside. Jackson was chasing hard from lane 7. Neither of them could close the gap. Melissa kept pulling away, step by step, meter by meter, until she crossed the line in 21.66 seconds. Take a moment with that time. It was one of the fastest 200-meter performances by any woman ever recorded at a world championship. The winning margin was nearly half a second. In a sprint race, half a second is not a photo finish. Half a second is a different race entirely. Half a second is a message sent to everyone on the track, and everyone watching at home, and everyone who had ever doubted that a 100 meters girl could own the 200 as well. Jackson crossed the line in third. Bronze. Her back-to-back title run was over. Amy Hunt of Great Britain, 23 years old, took the silver in a breakthrough moment for British sprinting. But the stadium was not talking about silver. It was not talking about bronze. Every conversation in that building started and ended with the same name. Now here is the part that must not get lost. Jackson ran well. This was not a collapse. Jackson did not have a bad night. She showed up as a champion and competed like one. That is exactly why what Melissa did carries so much weight. She did not win by default. She won because she was better. She was simply, clearly, undeniably better than the greatest 200 meters runner alive on the night it mattered most. She became the first American woman in history to win both the 100 meters and the 200 meters at a single world championship. Let that breathe. Not the first in a decade. Not the first since Felix. The first ever. In the entire history of the event. Only 3 other women across all of athletics history had achieved a world championship sprint double at all. The last was Shelley and Fraser-Price in 2013. Melissa joined company that barely exists. After the race, she said that becoming the first American woman to do something that Allison Felix, the woman she watched growing up, the woman she dreamed of becoming, never did not feel real. But she had worked too hard for it to be a surprise. And then there is the relay. On April 18, 2026, at a college track meet in Gainesville, Florida, 4 women ran a relay in 41.70 seconds. That number needs context. The women's 4x100 relay gold medal at the Paris Olympics was run in 41.78. These 4 women, at a university invitational in April, before the Diamond League, before the World Championships, before the season had even truly started, ran faster than Olympic gold. The statistician who has tracked women's relay results since 1972 called it the fastest time ever recorded before the month of May in the entire history of the event. One of those 4 women was Melissa Jefferson Wooden, running the opening leg, controlled and powerful, not even fully extended yet. The anchor was Shericka Richardson. If you want to understand why that relay mattered beyond the numbers, you need to understand who Shericka Richardson is and what she has been carrying. She is 26 years old. She grew up in Dallas, Texas, raised by her grandmother after her mother left when she was young. Nothing arrived easily. She wore acrylic nails on the track when coaches and commentators told her it was unprofessional. She wore them anyway and kept winning races. In 2021, during the Olympic trials, her grandmother died. Days after that loss, she tested positive for cannabis. She was removed from the Olympic team. She served her full suspension without making a single public excuse, without pointing fingers, without asking for sympathy. She sat with it. She processed it. And then she came back. She came back as a triple world champion. She won the individual 100 meters gold at the 2023 World Championships in Budapest. She anchored the American relay to gold at the 2025 World Championships in Tokyo. She rebuilt herself from the ground up and came back as one of the most dominant sprinters on the planet. But 2024 happened. At the Paris Olympics, the individual 100 meters final, the race she had been building toward since 2021, the race that was supposed to be the final chapter of her comeback story, she finished outside the medals. She stood in the biggest race of her life and watched someone else cross the line first. That result did not leave her. It followed her through the rest of 2024 and into 2025, where she finished 5th at the Tokyo World Championships. 5th, running nowhere near the times her body is capable of producing. She did not disappear. That has to be said clearly. Some athletes with her history, after a result like Paris, find reasons to walk away or quiet down. She went in the opposite direction. In early 2026, she flew to rural Australia and entered a 120-meter race on grass called the Stawell Gift. It is a historic handicap race where every runner starts ahead of you based on their ranking, which means the better you are, the more ground you have to make up. She started last. She won. She took home 40,000 Australian dollars and called it a warm-up. Her words entering the 2026 season left nothing open for interpretation. She was not building towards something. She was already there. Then she came to Florida and anchored a relay faster than Olympic gold. Here is the detail that should follow every competitor into their next training session. Sha'Carri Richardson has never won an Olympic gold medal in the individual sprint. The 2028 Los Angeles Olympics are on home soil. 2 years away. American crowd. American streets. Her city. She is already running at Olympic pace in April of 2026. That is not motivation. That is a countdown. And there is a third name that belongs in this conversation, even though she speaks the least loudly. Julian Alfred is the reigning Olympic 100 meters champion. In Paris, she crossed the finish line first ahead of both Richardson and Jefferson Wooden. She runs 10.7 consistently. She does not give long interviews. She does not post training videos or hype herself on social media. She just runs. At the 2025 World Championships in Tokyo, she won bronze before leaving with an injury. She has been building quietly through the indoor season. She has not said much. But here is the position she now occupies. The two women she beat in Paris are running relay legs faster than the time it took to win gold. They are not closing the gap between themselves and their potential. They have already closed it. The question Julian Alfred now has to answer is whether she can match that level when the real season begins. The Diamond League is coming. The 2027 World Championships in Beijing are on the schedule. Los Angeles is 2 years away. The clock on that question is already running. Now shift your attention to a different track and a different kind of impossible. A 17-year-old high school student from Texas just won a world championship gold medal in the 800 meters. Not a junior championship. Not a regional title. The actual World Indoor Championships. He beat every professional runner on the planet at an event those professionals train for as their full-time career. And while they were tapering and peaking and managing their race schedules with surgical precision, Cooper Lutkenhaus was on spring break. Cooper was born on December 19, 2008 in the Dallas area of Texas. His father ran competitively. His older brother ran. Running was already in the air of his family. But nothing in that family's history even comes close to what Cooper has done. His freshman year of high school, he went undefeated in the 800 meters, won 3 national meets, and took the Texas state title. He also ran a 47.33 in the 400 meters at 15 years old. That combination of sprint speed and distance endurance is remarkable at any age. At 15, it was almost without precedent. Coaches across the country started picking up their phones. Sophomore year arrived, and Cooper stopped showing up as a prospect and started showing up as a fact. Michael Granville had held the American high school 800-meter record since 1996. 29 years. Every talented high school runner in America had taken a shot at it. Cooper erased it at the Brooks PR Invitational, running 1 minute and 47.58 seconds. 2 weeks later at Nike Outdoor Nationals, he pushed it to 1 minute and 45.45 seconds. Then came the USA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, where a 16-year-old entered a professional field and refused to be treated like a visitor. In the semifinals, he stumbled at the 400-meter mark. That kind of stumble ends races. Cooper recovered, finished second, ran 1 minute and 45.57 seconds, and became the youngest man in history to qualify for the U.S. 800-meter final. In the final, he ran down the field and finished second in 1 minute and 42.27 seconds. That time broke the world under 18 record by over a full second. His last 100 meters was covered in 12.48 seconds. He flew past his childhood hero Bryce Hoppel in the final stretch. At 16 years old, only 3 Americans in the entire history of the event had ever run faster. Nike called. Cooper signed a professional contract in August 2025 and became the first American male middle-distance runner to turn professional while still enrolled in high school. He kept going to school. He kept training with his high school coach at Northwest High in Justin, Texas. He kept being a teenager between the races that were rewriting record books. September 2025. World Championships in Tokyo. This was supposed to be the arrival. Cooper showed up as the youngest American ever to compete at the World Athletics Championships. He was eliminated in round 1. 7th in his heat. It was over almost before it began. What most people watching missed was the reason. By the time Tokyo arrived, Cooper had been racing for 17 consecutive months. Cross-country, season into indoor, season into outdoor, season into worlds. Without rest. Without a true off-season. His body had nothing left. He went home to Texas, sat with his coach, and dissected every single mistake from that race. Then the 2026 indoor season started, and a different Cooper showed up. January 24th, he ran 1 minute and 45.23 seconds at the Norb Sander Invitational and broke the U.S. under-18 indoor record, a record that had belonged to Donovan Brazier, the same man who beat him at the USA Championships months before. February 1st at the Millrose Games, he ran the 600 meters in 1 minute and 14.5 seconds and set a new world under-20 record. 13 days later on Valentine's Day, he ran 1 minute and 44.03 seconds and set another world under-20 record. On March 1st, he won the USATF Indoor Championships and became the national champion. From Tokyo onward, he had not lost a single race. Not one. World Indoor Championships. Torun, Poland. Cooper was seeded third going in. The gold medal favorite was Elliot Creston of Belgium, a veteran with 3 straight World Indoor Championship podium finishes who had run 1 minute and 43.83 seconds just 1 month before the meet. That time sits among the top 5 indoor performances in the history of the event. The semifinal was Cooper's first message to the field. He ran 1 minute and 44.29 seconds, the fastest time at a World Indoor Championship in 29 years, since Wilson Kipketer in 1997. He crossed the line easing up while the other runners fought just to qualify. The final. Cooper started in 4th. He stayed calm through the first lap, watching, tracking, waiting. At the 500-meter mark, he moved to Creston's shoulder and pushed to the front. Not at the bell. Not in the final stretch. In the middle of the race. Creston fought at the bell. The gap stayed tight. Cooper held it every step to the line. He crossed first. The 17-year-old on spring break beat every professional in the world. And now we go to the other side of the planet, where a different kind of history is being built on a different kind of story. Gout walked up to a microphone before the most important race of his life and said exactly 3 words. "I'm out for revenge." That was it. 6 syllables. No speech. No elaboration. No interview. Just a sentence carrying a full year of pain, training, and obsession compressed into 3 words and delivered to the entire country of Australia. Gout was born on December 29, 2007 in Ipswich, Queensland. He is 18 years old. He holds the Australian national record in the 200 meters at 20.02 seconds. To understand why that is almost incomprehensible, you need to understand what it replaced. Peter Norman set the previous Australian 200-meter record at 20.06 seconds at the 1968 Mexico City Olympics. That record stood for 56 years. Half a century of Australian sprinters trying to touch it. In December 2024, a 16-year-old who had not yet finished high school ran 20.04 seconds at the Australian All-Schools Athletics Championship in Brisbane and ended Norman's record in a single afternoon. Just like that. 56 years gone. That time made Gout faster in the 200 meters than Usain Bolt had been at the exact same age. Bolt's personal best at 16 was 20.13. Gout ran 20.04. When word reached Bolt himself, he responded to an Instagram post and wrote that Gout looked like young him. The entire athletics world looked up from whatever it was doing. Who is this kid? By June 2025, Gout had pushed his own record even further. And before the second big race of his career, the one where he would face the man who had beaten him twice on the same track, he stood in front of a microphone and said what he came to say. 3 words. A full year of purpose packed into a single breath. I'm out for revenge. These stories are happening at the same time. A 25-year-old woman from a coastal town of 8,000 people in South Carolina, who once donated her own stem cells to keep her father alive, is now 0.12 of a second away from a world record that has not moved since 1988. A 26-year-old from Dallas who was banned from the Olympics, who lost her grandmother during the trials, who came back as a world champion, is running relay legs in April that are faster than Olympic gold. A 17-year-old still enrolled in high school just stood on a podium at the World Indoor Championships and was called champion. An 18-year-old from Queensland, Australia, just told the world in 3 words exactly what he plans to do. The pen relays are coming. The Diamond League follows. The 2027 World Championships in Beijing are on the calendar. And beyond all of that, Los Angeles 2028 sits 2 years away with American crowds and home soil, and every sprinter on this planet already circling the date. The races that will define this era have not been run yet. But every single number from the past 12 months is telling you the same thing. The athletes who will run them are already ready.